the famous voice of Sonus Faber. Is it really as spectacular as many people say? In my reviews, I want to make it a habit to summarize the sound characteristics in one sentence in the beginning of the review. The Sonus Faber Olympica Nova II. Rich, colorful and clear, and always gentle and polite as a well-behaving gentleman. Approximately 25 years ago was the first time that I ever went to one of these proper hi-fi stores. And I was walking around in these rooms and I saw this sculpture like a wooden statue standing there. I walked towards it and I thought, this doesn't even look like a loudspeaker. This looks like furniture of a luxury yacht. Looking at the label, it said Sonus Faber. Handcrafted in Italy, the Olympica Nova II consists of 8 layers of bent wood and of an aluminium exoskeleton for reinforcement. The design of the Olympica Nova II resembles the musical instrument the lute, and this gives it its unique and distinct oval shape. According to some loudspeaker manufacturers, the oval shape is not only design, it also helps to work with the resonances within the cabinets when you design a loudspeaker. It comes in 2 finishes, walnut and Wenge. And to be honest, I had a pretty hard time actually deciding upon one of the finishes when I bought them, because I went for the walnut, but I may as well have gotten the Wenge. I think they're both very, very beautiful. Before we start talking about the sound characteristics, I have to point out these loudspeakers in Europe cost 12,000 euros, in the United States 13,500 US dollars. And they sound like that. To my experience, loudspeakers at this price range display a finesse and a refinement in the musical presentations that many times it is hard to find with speakers that are much cheaper. The Sonus Faber Olympica Nova II, to my opinion, they sound breathtaking. But it's not a speaker that is going to blow you away in the first 2 minutes that you hear one song. It actually took me a while to understand all the finesse, the way the music was presented with very, very different genres. It took me a while to fall in love with this one. Another test song that the woman of the house enjoys very much to pull out whenever we audition new hi-fi systems here in my living room is by Brandi Carlile, every time I hear that song. At one point in the song, Brandi Carlile develops a certain vibrato in her voice, and if that is presented in the correct way, in a good way, it is almost like it is tickling your skin. It is almost like a physical feeling. Another very interesting observation in this song is something called the 3-part distinct harmony. Brandi Carlile and her 2 long-term partners, Phil and Tim Hansenroth, sing as a trio somewhere in the middle of the song, and having the Sonus Faber Olympica Nova II connected to the audio Analogue Maestro Anniversary amplifier, it really makes these 3 people visible in my living room, and I can clearly discern who sings what and how, at which frequencies, at which loudness, and are they looking at each other or not. That's a very exciting feeling. Let's talk about the driver array and start with the tweeter. The tweeter is a soft dome silk tweeter constructed in the patented design of Sonus Faber called the damped apex dome. This construction helps to eliminate phasing issues and also to enrich the highs with details, and on the other hand making them more gentle and smoothing them out. And I can attest to that. The highs of this loudspeaker are very smooth, very gentle, yet quite detailed. They're never fatiguing, they're never ear-piercing, and they are a little bit rolled off. The mid-range driver is the star of the show, the famous voice of Sonus Faber. It is produced out of natural material, cellular pulp and K-Pack, and the design and the construction of the mid-range driver is very unique to every loudspeaker. You will not find 2 that look alike the surface of it is never really quite even. You always get these kind of structures on the membranes. The mid-range of the Sonus Faber is very rich and very colorful, and especially human voices and all acoustic instruments, they come across in an organic way that makes them very, very real. I believe the quality of the mid-range driver is also responsible for the clarity and the cleanness of the mid-range that I perceive when listening to music with these loudspeakers. This clarity, by the way, also makes watching movies or series a real pleasure, because you can understand the dialogues very easily. I've had quite a few loudspeaker systems here in my room, and it has happened that sometimes, music sometimes sounded as if there was a curtain in front of the loudspeakers, or the music didn't really want to come out of the loudspeakers. Not with the Sonus Faber Olympica Nova II. Their clarity is certainly one of the strongholds. The bass driver is also produced out of natural material. The bass of the Olympica Nova II is a warm and full bass. It is not the fastest, it is not the tightest, but it gives this music certain body and volume, and the stage is always quite expansive. One of the test songs that I always pull out when I want to audition speakers or when I want to test the bass quality of a given loudspeaker and the hi-fi system behind it is a song by Gustavo Bravetti called Babel. The song starts with synthesizer produced, I believe they are synthesizer produced bass notes, and they're going deeper and deeper and deeper. And for me, the reproduction of these bass notes are a very good measure to see how controlled and how defined the system reproduces bass. I have seen many loudspeakers fail with that song. The Sonus Faber did not fail. Stealth ultraflex system. This is what Sonus Faber calls their bass port, basically. It is a vertical structure made out of aluminium that helps to reinforce the bass frequencies and helps to deal with the unwanted resonances of the low frequencies within loudspeaker cabinet. Now, most loudspeakers that I have come across, the bass port basically is a hole in the back of the loudspeaker cabinet. This design of Sonus Faber, at least to my eyes, it is very, very pleasing, and it is a welcome new thing. I think by now it is quite obvious. I do enjoy the looks of the Sonus Faber Olympica Nova II, but beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. That is the saying. So tell me what you think. Do you think it is important that loudspeakers have a design like this? Is this design maybe a little bit too much for you? Is it only important that they sound well and it doesn't really matter what they look like? Let me know. We're all human beings and tastes are very, very different. And you know what? I think it is very good and very important that tastes are different. Imagine a world where everybody would think the same things to be pretty. Everything would look the same. That would be boring. It is my mantra to say that hi-fi components in a system need to have synergy. The matching partner to the loudspeaker is not only the front electronic, it is also the room. The Sonus Faber Olympica Nova II are the loudspeakers that I'm using the most here in my living room. And that one of the reasons is for sure also because they match to my room quite perfectly. The bass reproduction is just right for my ears. There is enough bass, there is good bass, but it's not too much. It is not overblowing me, and it's also not thin, it's not lean. I want to compare it to a loudspeaker that I wanted to have a while back, because I went to the shop, I saw it, I liked it, I auditioned it in the auditioning room, and my ears very much liked what they heard. And then I took it home with me. I'm talking about the Triangle Magellan Cello. At home in my living room, it was very quickly clear the bass production of this loudspeaker simply overpowers my room. So the energy this bass put out was simply too much for the room that I'm in. The Olympica Nova II, are just about perfect. Another musician that I want to mention here is jazz musician Wynton Marsalis. Not long ago I went to a live concert of his here in Vienna at the Konzerthaus, which is a very old classical big building, and it was breathtaking. It was fantastic. Wynton Marsalis appeared with a huge orchestra. I think it was 24 or 25 different musicians. So in this orchestra we had drums, we had horns, we had trumpets, we had clarinets, we had flutes, there was a piano. So all kinds of different instruments. And many of his recordings are like that. He brings along a big orchestra. Listening to his kind of music with the Olympica Nova II is a real pleasure for me, because these loudspeakers are able to reproduce the natural timbre of all these acoustic instruments and of all these horn instruments. In a way, it feels very tangible and real. So big orchestras like this, they have a certain grandeur in their presentation when you go to live concerts. And at least for me, the Olympica Nova II, they are capable of reproducing that. The grille of these loudspeakers is also very distinct and very unique. I believe it goes back to the resemblance of the lute. The grille looks like strings. Taking off the grille reveals maybe the only design flaw that I see in these speakers, because upon taking off the grille it leaves these holes behind, and I don't think that these holes match the rest of the aesthetics of these loudspeakers. Floor plate is made out of solid steel and it is one piece. There's nothing glued together, there's nothing screwed together. The feet of the loudspeakers are 4 spikes. Now the whole discussion about the benefit of spikes, I believe that may be a different review. I personally have never seen any benefit of any spikes, but that is a different discussion. The benefit to these spikes is that they are individually height adjustable, and with this you can level the loudspeakers perfectly to your sitting position, and you can have them perfectly perpendicular to the floor. I have positioned my loudspeakers on an MDF plate. I have manufactured this MDF plate myself, and I also have a plate made out of slate, and I have a plate made out of marmor. There is a sound difference upon changing the plate where the loudspeakers stand on. If I put the loudspeakers directly on the wooden floor, that was not too much to my liking. I prefer having them on one of the plates, and I ended up using the MDF plate the most. So are the Olympica Nova II the perfect partner for all the genres that I want to listen to? Well, almost. See, I also like listening to electronic music and music that has certain electronic production influences, and for many of these pieces this music sometimes benefit of a little bit of a brighter presentation and of a bass that has a little bit more attack and is faster. But at the end of the day, it is a matter of personal taste and personal preferences. There may well be people out there who love to listen to bands like AC/DC on Sonus Faber system. Another artist where the Olympica Nova II are most certainly in their home territory is singer Agnes Obel. Oh my god, Agnes Obel's voice presented with the Olympica Nova II, it gives me goosebumps, and I want to have goosebumps when listening to music. There is a very interesting observation in one of her songs. The song is called Familiar. In the middle of the song, it sounds like there is a male choir joining the song, or at least there is a few background singers. It took us a while to find out, actually it is not a male choir or male background singers that join the song. It is Agnes Obel's own voice, and it's pitched down, and she recorded it like this. It's a fascinating experience to have this on a system with the quality of the Olympica Nova II. For most of the genres that I listen to, the Sonus Faber Olympica Nova II are a very nice partner for me, to my ears, here in my room. I enjoy the rich and colorful and the very refined and textured way of presenting vocals and acoustical instrument. So, who do I think will enjoy the Sonus Faber Olympica Nova II? Well, if you enjoy listening to a sound system, to speakers that have a certain brightness in them and a sort of certain punchy attack in them, then I believe the Sonus Faber Olympica Nova II may not be the best choice for you. However, if you enjoy very much listening to musical genres like blues and jazz and soul, singer-songwriter, classic music, folk music, western music, swing, you name it, I believe the Olympica Nova II may be a perfect partner for fine audio experiences. They're very gentle, they're very smooth. I can listen to music for hours going on. They're not fatiguing, they're not ear-piercing. That is something I enjoy very, very much. And I believe they are most certainly worth the shot. Don't forget the most important thing in this hobby. Enjoy music.